All right, welcome to Never Out of the Fight podcast with your host, Darius Warren, also known as D. Welcome you to the show. I have a good one for you today. I have a gentleman, like I said, he has this guy I've known for a little bit. He's a great guy and he has a wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience. His story is going to be excellent, but what he's going for is going to be even more tremendous. I can't wait to see him in this position. It's well deserved. And I'm going to be bringing to you guys. I'm just going to, I'm going to hit y'all with some stuff right now. Right now, this Cornell Madison for sheriff of Clayton County. This gentleman, I mean, I talk about him, and I'm going to just bring up a few things before I bring him up. He has a wealth of law enforcement experience. As I've said before, he, as a candidate for sheriff of Clayton County, he's going to bring a wealth of law enforcement experience, robust qualifications that has prepared him for serving the community of Clayton County. Just a little bit about, his background. He has worked in several divisions within the law enforcement community, gained diverse experiences that equipped him for the challenges of the role of sheriff. He's worked in areas such as patrol, bike patrol, engaging with the community. He worked in the gang and narcotics unit, crime suppression and traffic, jail, court, civil warrants, honor guard, public information officer. When I say a plethora of things, the guy has done a plethora of things. And I'm not going to hold him on too long. I'm going to go ahead and bring him up so we can go ahead and engage in this talk today. I'm bringing none other than Mr. Cornell Madison, that's running for sheriff of Clayton County. Bringing him up. How you doing, sir?
Hey, how you doing, D? How are you? How you been?
Man, good, man. Just glad to see that you still in the fight, man. You're still moving forward, trying to make communities better.
Yes, sir.
That's my biggest thing, man. Is I'm watching a gentleman that I've seen go a long way, and now he's running for sheriff of Clayton County. So tell us a little bit about this pathway, man.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a pathway that hasn't been easy, and sometimes it brings you challenges along the way. I've known you probably 13 years now, 14
Yeah.
years, and we were both military veterans. You were in the Army, I was in the Marine Corps, and I'm not going to hold that against you during this conversation. But we're all brothers and all. I knew growing up that I wanted to be in law enforcement. I had some hiccups throughout my life. No one's perfect but Jesus Christ. I've had good days, I've had bad days, I've had good days in law enforcement, bad days in law enforcement. I've had good days in my personal life and bad days in my personal life. But I look at those as life experiences. Sometimes you have a job and you're very good at your job. But if you look at the veterans in whatever profession you're in, those who've worked there the longest have life experience to bring with that. So it makes like their job is easier. But what's happened is they done been through stuff that you haven't quite made it to yet. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I will tell you that without having faith, I don't think that I would be here today. I've had some losses in my family. I lost a child, by drowning at my residence. I've been terminated from a law enforcement agency before. I've been arrested before. So, but I don't judge one person by their past. I judge them on who they've become.
Yeah.
And are they not running away or hiding from those things?
Yeah.
I had a tough time when I got out of the military. I used to do Explorer Scouts and I went to the academy years ago. And, when I got out of the military, I had a difficult time in my early 30s, And then so when I was about 36, I decided to move to Georgia. I came here, I was the president of my firefighting class, and then I graduated top of that class. Then I moved on to law enforcement class where I was the class president at the last minute, and
Yeah.
I did my thing there. And I met some good people there, and some have unfortunately left this earth,
Yeah.
went on to a better place. But without all those things, I don't think I would have been able to be who I am. Since then, I've got my field training officer certification. I've got my supervision certification. I've got my management of law enforcement certification. I went back to school. There's a lot of stuff I've done to prepare me for this. I've worked in gangs. I've worked in CID. I've worked in bike patrol. I've worked in traffic patrol. I've worked in crime prevention. I've worked in narcotics as an undercover agent. I've been a assistant chief of police. I feel that I'm ready to be the sheriff of Clayton County. A disclaimer is I did run for sheriff in Henry County, and I was so disgusted by the politics there that once the election was over, I left and came back to Clayton County where I started my Georgia law enforcement career at. I
Yeah.
worked for the city of Jonesboro for exactly 3 years to the day before I went to Fulton County Police. I stayed there. Then what happened in Fulton County, they wanted to switch us to the city of South Fulton. The voters voted to incorporate the city.
Yeah.
When they incorporated the city, I worked for the city of South Fulton for about 2.5 years before being let go for a policy violation. And then I went to Butts County, Georgia, down to Jackson, where I've been ever since. And I left there for a little bit to go run for sheriff as I was assistant chief of police in another town. So somebody say, "Oh, he jumped county to county." I came back home, and I've only ran for sheriff in another county. So you know, you have those reach for straws when they're trying to make you look bad from the public. But that is the truth, and you heard it from my mouth.
Yeah.
So I decided when you called me and asked me, "Did I want to come on the show?" I said, I'll take the opportunity to go on that show and let's clear the air on some things. And I understand you have some questions for me, so let's
Yeah.
get right into it.
Well, first off, I want to, I always start off the show. I ask people about their upbringing.
Hmm.
What do you believe that your upbringing has really brought you to that is preparing you for the position that you're running for?
Well, I'll tell you, my father was not really present in my life after the age of 5. My mother had a drug dependency all of her life.
Yeah.
My father had a drug dependency all of his life in and out of prison. My grandmother primarily raised me when my mother couldn't. I used to see my mom do some bad things to make sure that we ate and that we survived. I grew up in Compton, California during the 80s and 90s, a very, very
Rugged
rough
time.
neighborhood, a lot of gang problems. I lived in a Cedar Block, Pirate Blood neighborhood, but I was never a blood gang member.
Yeah.
I had friends that were gang members. My next door neighbor was a gang member. His father was the police chief of a certain city in Los Angeles. And, he went down that path and unfortunately he lost his leg, went to prison, but now he's doing well living in Tennessee. When I was 18, I said I need to change my life. I ended up having a romantic relationship with my girlfriend at the time who got pregnant. And I said, oh man, I got a child coming. What am I going to do? I joined the United States Marine Corps. And I believe that and some of the men at the fire department and sheriff's office where I was at saved my life because I was an Explorer Scout. They were like the fill-in father for me that I did not have.
Yeah.
So I look at a lot of the experiences I've had in life to say, hey, I can be the sheriff and change some of these lives. Look at all these shootings and stuff that we're having in Clayton County. There's a lot of stuff going on in Clayton County. Now, I think law enforcement plays a big role in that, but it takes a village to raise a child. I believe in sparing the rod, spoiling the child, sparing the rod. Some of these kids
Yeah.
need their behinds whooped at a young
Yeah.
age, and it will change their behavior moving forward. But the laws have changed pro spanking against spanking over the years, and then you got kids raising kids. So the young men aren't joining the military like they used to, and they're making bad decisions. And I try to tell them, listen to me. I have been where you're at. I didn't get to be 50 years old, not experiencing stuff. The stuff that you've done, I've already done, and I still pay the consequences from that today. I would tell you, when you're running for public office, people try to dig up stuff on you,
Yeah.
and when they dig up, oh, he's been arrested before. You know what I mean? I have to explain that to people. Even though I have zero convictions on my criminal history, I've been to jail. I was exonerated. That's the only difference. But people take the snippet from that and run with it and try to make you look bad to help the person they want get in office or to stay in office. But I really feel that Clayton County can use my leadership, and Clayton County can use my leadership as a man, as a father. Clayton County can use my leadership from law enforcement, and Clayton County can use my military experience on how to lead people during time of turmoil. You call the police because you're going through some things. You go
Yeah.
to jail because you've been accused of doing something. Not that you're convicted or you're a criminal at that point, but you've been arrested. So to go through the adjudication system.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hit some things because this is a big one for me. Having a
Hmm.
Even though I've known you for so long, man, it's still different because I've watched this man grow into who you are today, man. And I'm very proud to even say I'm your friend because I watched, I watched a lot of people, like you said, Phillips.
Yeah.
God rest his soul, man. He came up through the ranks, went to the academy with us. And like I said, you became a leader in that, and you kind of led the way for us young guys. I'm 42, but I'm right behind you. I'm right
You're right
behind you,
behind
brother.
me.
But you're like a big brother to me, and to even have you
I
in my
remember those
wedding,
struggles. I remember those struggles you had coming out of the
man,
military.
man,
One day you're one person, the next day you're another person. I
yeah,
remember, but it was
and
something
that's
you
what
had to
I'm
go
saying.
through. You had to go through it,
Yeah, you
and
you you
without faith,
really
you
you
would have
really helped me out
never.
with that.
But you would.
You
It
helped me out with
wasn't
that.
only me though. If you didn't have the faith and the support system from your family, you would have never. You would. It would have been tough for you. You might
Yeah,
have went down another route.
man. And I thank God that hey, listen, I always talk about the Lord. You know me, man. I always talk about him,
I
but
know.
but that's a big thing in faith in your life. But I had to ask people some questions, man, because coming into this, I ain't know what to really ask you. I'm be honest. I just because it's a tough thing. So I had to tap into some people because people have questions about what they believe their sheriff should embody. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? So
Right.
and one of the question was is like you spent so many decades in law enforcement in policing and in different leadership roles. Why do you feel you're the most qualified person for Clayton County, for sheriff of Clayton County?
The reason I feel that I'm the most qualified person for sheriff of Clayton County, not only the years of experience working in law enforcement, because I
Yeah,
bring logic and I'm not an impulsive thinker. I feel that the leadership traits I received from the Marine Corps and from the men around me that were in law enforcement and in the emergency services, they taught me how to think like a law enforcement executive. You also got to feel the experiences that I have been through in law enforcement. From the old cliche, you're not a good cop unless you get written up.
yeah,
Well, that's not 100% accurate, but it does show that you have experience in what has happened, how people should be treated. If you treat one person that way, you need to treat everybody that way, and you need to always remain professional. I look at all these incidents with law enforcement officers getting in trouble. They need to realize once the handcuffs go on, there's no need to keep doing all that that's done to take them into custody because guess what? You got them at that point. But
yeah,
at the same time, I don't believe in no hug a thug, believing that we should just tap people on the hands and let them go on about their business after they've been adjudicated. Those days are over in Clayton County. People compare me to previous sheriff. No, I'm me. I'm Cornell Madison. They call me CJ, but I'm CJ, and I believe in proactively going after those who are trying to harm people. You pull up to the store, there's people sitting outside drinking, people in the back hanging out. You walk into the store, hey, Unc, can I get $1? No. Think of your family's going in there and they're, at nighttime and your family's afraid to go in the store. That makes our property taxes go up. That makes our insurance goes up. That makes the crime go up. So I feel that under my leadership, my deputies will have directives on how things should be done the professional way and still show compassion to the people, but still do our jobs as constitutional officers.
yeah.
But before we can do that on the streets, we have to get that jail together. And that's the number one priority of the sheriff in Georgia. That is the constitutional responsibility. And that jail in Clayton County is terrible. I've been to 46 countries in my 50 years. And I study law enforcement, I study jails. That is like a third world POW camp. And it's embarrassing, number one, because we're Americans and we're better than that. And we're Clayton Countyans and we're better than that. I'm sure other counties laugh at us right now, but we're going to rebrand our county jail and take it back over. I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I was gonna say, man, I'm gonna let you
Yes,
get
I
back
can.
to that jail part. I had to mute myself so you can really get into it, man. I ain't want you listen, but we gonna let you get to that jail part.
But you know
But
that jail's like
the
a
people, like I said, it's some things that people
it's
want to know, and to do that, I find it, just because I know you, I got to ask I'm gonna ask the hard questions, brother. So yeah, I
and
got
that's
to ask the
fine.
hard
That's fine.
questions because
We're
people
here to
want to
clear the
know.
air.
So one of the things that a resident of Clayton County asked is, the residents saying that the crime rate is driving insurance rates up high, costs are getting high, it's hurting the quality of life. So the question is what specific steps would you take during your time or your first 100 days to make Clayton County a safer place?
Well, my first 100 days, we're going to have an evaluation of the command staff because I'm going to bring in some people as well. We're going to look at everybody's training record. And if you're in positions or jobs that you're not qualified for, we need to reassess that. I'm not saying I'm going to terminate people. We're just going to we're going to reallocate our resources, and the primary job for the first 30 to 60 days is going to be the jail. We have to get the jail under control because what is the purpose of arresting a bunch of people and you have nowhere to put them? I'm going to reevaluate why some of those people are in there. If they're in there for minor crimes, we're going to purge that jail. I pretty much want violent offenders in that jail. If you got arrested for a non-violent crime like forgetting to pay a ticket because you didn't have the money to pay it because you're taxed out of everything else, we're going to find other alternatives for you than to have you sitting in jail because there's people that are sitting in jail for a traffic ticket for 6 months. Why? It costs me more to keep you there to house you than it is to work with you to get the citation taken care of. My second issue is I'm going to have my crash unit. Crash stands for Clayton County's response to street hoodlums. Because that's what they are. They're hoodlums. Let's stop saying, oh, they're just misguided kids. No, they're hoodlums. I'm sorry. They're hoodlums. And we're going to find a way to put a stop to at least minimize the violent crimes. You're never going to just completely stop crime. So when these candidates are saying, oh, I'm going to stop crime, that's not going to happen. We need to minimize the crime. And I plan to minimize the crime with my crash unit. We're going to be out there doing traffic stops that are justified traffic stops, not because I feel like you might be doing something wrong. We're going to make sure that people aren't hanging out in front of
Yeah.
stores and businesses and loitering. We're going to stop riding down the street with music blasting, distracting people. We're going to stop spray painting on walls and throwing food and stuff out of vehicles and destroying our community. We're going to tighten up on these TPOs, these protective orders, keeping these people out of the community that shouldn't be here in the first place. We're going to enforce county ordinances. And we're going to do this stuff with qualified deputy sheriffs in collaboration with my state and federal partners. As you see, I just got back
Yeah.
from DC talking to some federal partners, and I've spoken to our state partners. So, although I'm not the sheriff right now, I'm fostering relationships with other agencies and police chiefs because I'm a member of the Georgia Chiefs Association and associate member of the Georgia Sheriff's Association. I'm fostering relationships with these department heads. So, in the event I become sheriff, we have a plan that's already in motion. And I can't go in too much detail on the plans because I don't want none of my opponents doing what they already do. It's piggybacking me, being carbon copies. But I feel that needs to be done. Once we get the jail squared away, because the jail is my priority focus right now. Once we get the jail squared away and the courthouse is fully staffed with deputies, because we
Yeah.
already have a police department in Clayton County. So right now they're getting dual services. So we're going to take care of the constitutional responsibilities without going out here raising that budget. Because when the sheriff raises the budget, the commissions
Yeah.
have to give him the money he asked for. So I'm going to open up the books and say, everybody, here's how much money we have today. This is what we're going to do with it. But I'm going to have a small committee that's going to be advisors on how to spend that money and when that money is being spent. So that way, I won't be accused of being the sole person making poor decisions on financial transactions. But I can tell you right now, there are a lot of things I'm not doing that my predecessor is doing now. And I'm not here to disrespect that man or speak poorly of him or any of the other candidates. As you can see on my campaign, I'm focusing on positive politics, bringing solutions. I'm not focused on what they got going on in their lives or what's negative about them, because I truly don't care. I don't care what they do in their personal lives. I care what the incumbent's doing right now because he's dealing with our tax dollars, my safety, me and my
Yeah.
family and friends, and loved ones. But I'm very active in the community here right now, so I hear everybody speaking. I'm the 4-year board member at the American Legion, Post 258. So I hear all the complaints from all the veterans. The veterans on fixed incomes, and if they're getting taxed out because their property tax is going up because the sheriff says he needs more money,
Yeah.
that's a problem. The things that he's doing with that money, if you research it, you'll see what he's doing. I'm not here to tell you what he's doing because that's not my job. I'm not a spokesperson for him. I'm a spokesperson for the name you see behind me, Cornell Madison, for sheriff. But I do feel that once we work with other agencies and we get that jail squared away, put the maintenance back in that jail, put the money back in the jail where it was allocated, fix the locks on the jail, we won't have to have security companies protecting our jail. We'll have deputy sheriffs protecting our jail because every deputy sheriff that goes in that jail should be checked. Let me tell you why. It's nothing against my men and women over there working. Drugs don't bring themselves into jail. When you take people to jail, what do? You've been a law enforcement
Man,
officer for a long time. What happens
you
at the
check.
Sally Port?
You got to check them at
You
the
check
Sally
them.
Port.
So the only way that the contraband's getting into jail is an employee's bringing it into the jail, and I have ways to combat that because I don't want to be embarrassed by my deputies or my civilian staff getting arrested. But I will arrest you in front of everybody, and I will make an example out of you if you bring contraband into the jail. That's the Clayton County Residence Jail. I can say my jail, but that jail belongs to Clayton County,
Yeah.
just as those
Man, listen,
cars
man,
do.
you jumping all down that jail, man.
That
Since
jail
you
is
own it,
terrible,
what does
terrible.
I had this written down. I'm gonna just check my little thing because I wanted to ask you. I ain't want to get too deep. I know you might not be able to say too much, but what I did want to say is this. I'm gonna put it up on my little screen
Right,
right here
right.
so I can read it from here. Is right now my question is, since you've been talking a lot about the jail and stuff like that, so what does a well managed, safe, and professionally operated jail look like under your leadership? Because I hear you going in about the jail, but what does that actually what does it actually look like under your leadership? How does those changes come about? I know you want to give away too many of the secrets.
Well, under my leadership, correct. But under my leadership, no matter what, I will visit the jail every day that I'm at the sheriff's office. Number two, I'm gonna have commanders that work the jail, operate the jail, that are qualified to work the jail. That means not my friend that's into the academy. He's now the jail commander. No, we're gonna have experienced jailers there with basic, intermediate, and advanced certifications, jail certifications, as well as sworn certifications that know how to manage people. Because just because you're a good cop doesn't mean you're going to be a good manager of people. Because you get those supervisors sometimes you're like, you don't know what you're doing because they don't know how to manage people, but they're great cops. So we're going to have great commanders in there that have a track record, a proven record of turning jails over and running jails. I speak to the people at the state all the time about the prisons. We're going to take some of their ideals and ideas, as well as ideas and ideals from the general public. But we're going to make that jail safe. When I say safe, I mean employees not getting attacked by inmates
Yeah.
because they don't have the manpower, because the manpower's been, the money's been allocated for something else. I want to make sure that the money that's allocated for the employees to work in jails in their classified positions, that's what it is. So we get the manpower back right. Make sure that everybody goes to jailer school. I went to jailer school as a police officer. I didn't have to go. I was already an assistant chief of police, but I went to jailer school anyway, so that way I can understand what I'm telling my people, and I wouldn't ask you to do something that I wouldn't do. And if that means Cornell Madison has to go down into the jail and work a couple hours a day to get that jail right, guess what? I'll be working the jail because that's my constitutional responsibility. So we're gonna do a stand down, make sure that all weapons and contraband are out the jail. We're gonna have shakedowns. We're gonna have different type of technology that's gonna be in there to ensure that stuff's not there. The cell phones that are in the jail, if you look at some other people's videos, we'll just say that much, of the inside the jail when the inmates are in there throwing up gang signs and showing people stuff. They're taking it with cell phone. Well, how did the cell phone get in there? An employee brought that cell phone in there and gave it to that inmate for a certain amount of money. We're gonna nip that right where it needs to be nipped, and there'll be roommates inside the jail. Another thing, I don't want people who get a traffic ticket or some kind of small misdemeanor crime to be classified with killers. If you got somebody you knew that killed somebody and they're standing trial or they're waiting to be shipped off to prison, why would you put somebody in there that ran a red light, didn't have a driver's license, in the same cell with them? The other person has nothing to lose if they're about to go to jail for the rest of their life. So then you're putting that person with the lesser crime in there and putting their life at risk. And people are responding. They'll say, "Well, don't do crimes, don't go to jail." Anybody can be accused of something they did not do. You can indict a ham sandwich. Getting the conviction's a different thing. So think about your loved ones driving down the street and they get accused of something, and unfortunately they have to go to jail because we have a legal process, and they're in there with somebody that committed homicide, who's killed a family member. So that's what I mean when I say safer jail. I want that jail to be safe for the employees, the inmates. Just because they're inmates doesn't mean that they should be treated a certain way, with dignity at least, because they're not convicted. People need to realize jail is a temporary holding spot that you get adjudicated. Prison is where the convicted people are at. People in jail should be treated with some dignity. I mean, I get it. Wrong is wrong, but we're the United States, and it's easy to say that until you or your family member sit on the other side of that sally port. Then you're like, "Oh, let me call the sheriff and see if he can let my friend out or let my relative out."
And this
So that's
this
what I
this
mean by
one
that.
right here, this one came from one of the people of Clayton County. It says, you said you can improve in public safety without asking taxpayers for more money. Where do you believe the efficiencies can be found without going into the sheriff's office budget? I know that might be a little tough question, but people,
Yeah. No, that's not a tough question, but I'm big on public corruption. That's one of my bulletin points. And if you ask AI about Cornell Madison, what he stands for as sheriff in Clayton County, they'll tell you I'm really big on public corruption because those who cast first stones are always the first ones
yeah,
to point fingers, always. So with that said, the money's going to be spent where it was spent to be allocated. I will tell you, my name is not going to be on any vehicles. I won't be having any TV shows come in to help me get promotion so I can get reelected. I won't be spending money on stuff that's there to stroke my ego. I'm going to spend the money on the taxpayers. Whether the money was allocated for payroll, guess what? It's going for payroll. If we get to April or May in our budget, and we got 2 months to go, and it's time to tighten up on overtime and stuff, guess what? We're going to tighten up. You got to treat it as a business. We all have financial struggles in our personal lives, including myself and everybody else. Nothing to be ashamed of. It is what it is. I got kids in college. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel that we shouldn't be wasting money. Like for instance,
yeah, I
you're
am,
digging a
man.
little bit, but it's
People
okay.
want to know, Madison. People want to know,
You
sir.
you, you take you take my opponent. You notice around election time, there's billboards of him everywhere. Oh, we're hiring, but you don't see no more employees. Name on the card. Costs money to put your name on the card. That card should say Clayton County Sheriff, not my opponent's name on the side. That costs money. Do that times 60, 70 cards. You know, buying wasteful electric vehicles that deputy sheriffs don't use to combat crime. Why are we buying that? Only vehicles we should be buying at the sheriff's office to combat crime, not to get you to and from work. If you're a sworn deputy, yes, you need your car at home because you might have to respond from home. But if you're a civilian staff member, you don't need an electric car. There's 60 cars sitting over there because some people don't want them cars. Because when they're off, they want to be off, not people walking up to them and say, "Oh, you work at the sheriff's office." But if you're the sheriff, it looks good for you because it looks like you're looking out for your employees. So spend the money where the money is allocated. That way you don't have to go in and raise the budget every year. Every year since I've been here, that budget's been raised. When the previous sheriff was here until 22 was 37 million. The incumbent just got checked the other day for $71 million July 1st. Why? That's more than double, almost double the the budget in the
Man,
3 or 4 years he's been there. But
yeah, I
I'm not
know.
here to speak
I
about
look,
him. I'm
man.
here to speak about us. I'm a fight. I know that. But
Yeah,
I'm here to answer any question
the
that they
people
sent to you.
asking,
I'm sure
man,
they sent
because
you some
like
questions.
just the and I'm gonna go down to them. I'm gonna jump down because I had a couple questions lined up, but I'm gonna jump down because it's since we're talking about that,
Mhm.
public trust in government is built on accountability. So what specific measures will you implement to increase transparency and restore the confidence in the sheriff's office?
Well, starting on day one, within that first week, it'll be within like the first week or two. I'm gonna have the courthouse open up a courtroom. I'm gonna have finance go down there, and I'm gonna have my chief deputy go down there. We're gonna sit, and we're gonna have the budget, the bank accounts open, so the entire public can see where the money's been spent. They can see where it's been spent, or where it intends to be spent. And I plan to put together some people to have some oversight. So major spending will all have a decision making whether that's going to benefit the sheriff's office or not. Because I'm here to maximize your quality of life. And if our jail is safe and our jail is secure, and people aren't dying in our jail, we won't be getting sued, and I won't have to ask for more money from the commissioners to pay off the lawsuits. Because you're going to lose in court if you violate somebody's civil rights. Just because you're upset at somebody, and your deputy may move on to another agency, and the taxpayers are still here to fit the bill from the mistakes he or she made.
Man,
So yeah, it's a lot, but you have to have transparency and accountability, because if one person's making that decision for every dime that's been spent there and then denies the mistakes, there's a problem with that. There's a problem with that. People say, I don't care, I don't own my house. No, but when you go to the store, you spend money, pay taxes there, right? When you dial 911, if they ain't got no deputies or no police officers because they're shorthanded, then it takes the officer forever to get there. You're going to say, well, why didn't we have enough officers? Because we couldn't pay them. Or why wasn't deputy such and such trained to do that, and now he done hurt somebody because of similar training? So you have to look at that type of stuff
so
as a
now,
department head.
man, this one right here is one that I believe is essential to a department too. Me being going from a regular deputy in the jail to being a road officer, it's a lot of things you learn at the bottom as you're working your way up to the top. So employee morale is another one.
Yes, sir.
Employee morale is critical to public safety. What will you do to support the deputies, the detention officers, and the civilian employees so they have the leadership, the training, and the resources needed to succeed in making Clayton County better?
Well, you're just like your kids feed off you when you come home from work. It's kind of the same way. Your kids can embarrass you in the neighborhood. They can embarrass you, or you as a parent can embarrass your children. I'm not saying those
Yes,
men or
sir.
women are my children. I'm just giving you an analogy. So with that said, if you're not willing to get out there and physically put hands, cuffs on people, physically work your own case without pawning it off to the guy that's below your rank, there's no morale there. If you're not willing to sit down and have a conversation with your deputies, go ride with one of them every now and then. Say, let's go for a ride. Let's go do some traffic. Let's go look at some vehicle thefts. Let's go. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
have to be hands on. A working sheriff, not a sheriff that's hiding out somewhere because of controversy. No, stand up and defend your people. If you're getting money from the commissioners, get money to give those deputies and those employees raises. Look how much the cost of living is now. So if you do cuts on malarkey and stuff that's not helping people, just because you want to make a vehicle look good and look cool and you paint it, that's money you can use
Yeah.
to give somebody a raise. That's money that you can use to make the dining area better at the sheriff's office, so the meals are better. There's a whole list of things you can do to raise the morale. The morale is bad when the reputation of the agency is bad, because as I know, you go to gym, say people say, "Where do you work?" "Oh, I work here." I heard this.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Because it's like a college campus there, and we both spend plenty of time there. You go down to Georgia Public Safety Training Center, and there's thousands of officers from all around the world there. Hey, how's that Clayton County Sheriff's Office? I heard they did this. Or I heard they did that. Or I heard your sheriff is this. Nobody wants to work like that. Nobody wants to work for a tyrant. I'll tell you, I'm tough on my people.
Yeah.
But when I say tough, I mean accountable. If you do your job and you're polite to the citizens, we will never have a problem. But if you're disrespecting people, I'm gonna put that medicine on you, because if you pull over my mother and you talking reckless outside of your mouth like I seen on some of these TV shows I've been watching with the sheriff's office, I promise you we would have a problem. Right now, if my 24-year-old daughter came over here and she got stopped by a Clayton County deputy and they were disrespectful to her, I'm gonna say I'm gonna wait until the video and I say I saw it on one of them TV shows. Oh, I'm going over there. I'm not worried about what the taxpayers think. I'm not worried about what anyone else think. I care about my baby. You're not going to be disrespecting my family members, and I know better. So we need to all slow down a little bit and remind ourselves how we want to be treated. And just because I'm the sheriff and you're a correctional officer doesn't mean I should be disrespectful to you or pushing up on you trying to date you at work. We shouldn't have none of that in that profession. And I believe that we should have no fraternization amongst certain people there. Another thing, I won't employ none of my family members there because I don't want the impression that I'm doing nepotism or doing something trying to take care of my family on the taxpayers' dollars. So I will commit to not having one employee of my family work.
And that's, hey, look, I'm gonna tell you, man, it's a tough job, but I think about this too, Madison. When you look at sheriffs, I've worked for one, and now I'm at a police agency. But I'm gonna tell you this, man, the people,
I remember
man,
he was your hero. I knew exactly what you're talking
yes,
about. He was your hero coming through. Man,
hey,
that
man,
man,
I'm
he
telling
could
you,
do nothing
man,
wrong in your
listen,
eyes.
I'm gonna tell you this, man, because I really I look up to him still. No matter what's going on, man, I like how he's trying to change things up.
He's
Yeah,
good. He's a good person. He's a man of
yeah,
God.
man, and
He's a
that's
good
what I
person.
look
He's
at,
a man.
man.
He's a man of God.
But for a agency, they want to look and see that their sheriff is an active sheriff. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying you got to go out there and pull over cars and out there making dope cases, but we want to see the sheriff out there in the community. We want to see you on a couple of shifts. We want to see you in the jail. We want to see you on night watch sometimes where those guys get forgotten about. How are you going to go out there and establish yourself as sheriff that way and being an active sheriff, showing those guys that you're there for them and you actually support them?
Right. Well, everybody knows I'm
Yeah.
a proactive guy, and I love law enforcement. So I might show up 2 o'clock in the morning. You never know. I might meet up with my guys and have lunch with them at 2 o'clock in the morning. We have to find a way. But by saying that, they I believe that the deputies understand I still have to do my job.
Yeah.
I still have the energy to do my job in the daytime. But as sheriff, that phone, I got two cell phones now. One's a campaign phone, one's my personal phone. And I have everybody in the community calling me at 770-468-7944. They send me text messages of what's going on in the community, what's going on in the jail, you know. So you have to be able to
Yeah.
have a balance with it also, though. You have to be able to. Sometimes I have a hard time stepping away from it because I want to be the sheriff so bad because I see what's going on. I have a passion for it, and that's why I said let me come on this show and let's address the tough questions that people are asking. Let's address my background. Let's address any concerns. I am here for that. And let me tell you, you want to have somebody that's experienced that has been through some things because unfortunately, I was in an officer involved shooting back in 2017. That shooting, I didn't get the support that I needed from the agency. And I came from one of the largest agencies in the state of Georgia. And when you discharge a weapon to take someone's life,
Yeah.
your life changes immediately right there. I didn't have the support or the mental health. We're humans, we're not robots. The mental health support I needed at the time. And I ended up getting it on my own. But I turned to alternative things. I was stressed out every day, so I started drinking and hanging out and doing stuff that I would normally do. And I had to sit one day and say, God, you're going to show me this is not the path.
Yeah.
He was trying to tell me,
Yeah.
and I didn't listen. I didn't listen. And guess what? I get arrested for DUI. The DUI got dismissed, right? So let's fast forward a little bit down the road. I run for sheriff in another county. Local candidate gets arrested for DUI. They made the impression that it just happened the night before. And all in fact, it had happened almost 10 years prior, 10 years ago. So and they're grasping for straws now. My couple of my opponents, they have nothing on me, so they keep bringing that video up, bringing that arrest up. I have zero convictions on my criminal history report. So and on my driver license, my history, I have a clean slate. So but those who don't know will just go off of what they hear. But people don't realize the stress that
Yeah.
comes after discharging that firearm. They try to indict you. You have to get a lawyer. In most agencies, you have to pay for the lawyer yourself. It's not like television. And people seem to think that it's like television. But what I was doing was trying to save three little boys from being killed by men
Yeah.
holding a machete at a gas station in College Park. So people don't understand that, and that you dream about that. Like I played over my head every single day, every day. But had I not sat on somebody's couch at my own expense and went through that, I wouldn't have made it. You know, there's PTSD in every job. Unfortunately, the state of Georgia just passed a PTSD law that requires them now when Georgia law enforcement officers or EMS or fire people see traumatic incidences that they get help. The average person sees 2 to 6
Yeah.
traumatic incidents in their life. The average law enforcement officer sees over
Yeah.
266 in a 10-year period. That's why when most of us retire, we pass away fairly because our
Yeah.
bodies are
So
conditioned to
how do
deal
you
with high
so
stress.
so to kind of piggyback off of that, how do you combat the mental health not only in the community but with your own officers that may be experiencing things? Because and I say that because sometimes as officers we may be experiencing, and it's almost like the military, you may be experiencing,
Hmm.
yeah, you may be
I remember
experiencing a
that too.
very tough traumatic situation, like seeing a kid die or having to take a life or something like that, but you're afraid to come forth to talk about it because you're afraid you might lose your job. So how would the go
Well,
ahead.
well, I would tell you, I learned this from my old chief of police, Franklin Allen of Jonesboro. So remember earlier I was telling you that my
Yeah.
son died in the backyard when he was 3 years old, about 10 days after his third birthday on Father's Day. So there was a time one day I was working traffic on Terra Boulevard. There's a car pulled over. And I looked on the ground. I was trying to see what they were doing. There was a bunch of people that stopped and got around them. I walk up. It was a little boy drowned in the bathtub. The fire department showed up. We didn't get him to the hospital. I believe he passed away. I immediately was like, "Oh man!" It brought me right back. I had not got help after the incident with my child, so my chief got me help. He sent me. You can call right now. He sent me to a psychiatrist over in Fayetteville, and I had to get clearance to come back to work. I think when officers are involved in traumatic incidences, they need to go get a psychological evaluation before they come back to work because you're there to save
Yeah.
lives, not to complicate the situation. And I believe that we should all, just like we check everybody's GCIC every year to make sure their driver license is good and they haven't had any new arrests. We then check their mental state too every 5 years. I believe all officers need to have a mental evaluation because it's costly. But once again, if you're spending the money where it's allocated
Yeah.
for, you can be able to
So
afford it.
I got this question, man. So if you are elected, if you are,
What's that?
when? Let's just put it
When I
like
am
that, because
elected,
I we got to speak this thing into existence, man. You
I'm
know
gonna
me.
speak
We
it
got
into
to speak it into
existence.
existence. So
Yes,
when
sir.
you are elected sheriff,
Yes, sir.
what would be the biggest difference that the community sees from your administration and the current one that's in there right now? Without throwing shade, if you can. I mean, I know you got to talk about it, but
Right.
yeah, but
I don't want to throw no shade. I don't want to do that. It would be accountability, transparency, and professionalism. You would know that you came in contact with a deputy sheriff under Cornell Madison's leadership. You would know that if I ask for something, we generally need it to maximize the quality of life and for the betterment of the inmates and the personnel and the residents of the county. If there's controversy, because things are going to come up, guess what? I'm going to address them, and I'm going to address them as the sheriff in front of everybody, not Nick's or word of mouth. I'll come out and I'll give a press conference if I have to. I've never seen our sheriff give a press conference. I'll give one. I've never seen the sheriff in Clayton County give a press conference. And that's why people are like, they're so secretive. Why they don't just come out and say nothing? We have nothing to hide.
So when
I'm talking
voters
about.
walk into the polling place, to get ready to cast a ballot, for the newly elected sheriff,
That's
you
that
know,
ballot, baby. And we need to vote. We need to vote, especially you black men. We don't vote.
but what
Black
what
men, I
can
need
you
you to
what
vote.
can you
But go ahead.
why should people trust you with their family safety, the neighborhood? I mean, and businesses, because you mentioned earlier about the businesses, the loitering and stuff, and that stuff is heavy, out there. But so what would give the people? Why should they trust you? One,
Because I'm accessible now, because I have nothing to hide, because I come with solutions to the problems that we have here in Clayton County. I have solutions. I'm not up here trying to sell you a set of steak knives and look all good in front of the camera. I'm here to bring the solutions to fix your problems. Because guess what? I live here too. My family comes to visit me all the time. My family comes from out of the state to visit. I got other law enforcement officers from other cities and towns and friends that come here, and I want them to say, hey, let's go to Clayton County. Oh, let's stop at the store real quick, get a bag of chips. Let's stop at the Chick-fil-A, or let's stop at the restaurant and eat, and not have to worry about coming out to their vehicle and the cars are broken into. My commitment to Clayton County should be, this guy came out November 8th, 2024, to say he's going to be the sheriff in May 24th, 2028. So you got to think about that. I'm campaigning for 4 years. I'm the first candidate to come out in Clayton County. I'm the first candidate to say I'll stand up against public corruption. If you're a police chief in our county, if you're a fire chief in our county, if you're a mayor, commissioner, and you break the law, we're going to hold you accountable. Especially if you're stealing tax dollars. I'm not going to hide and say, "Oh, you can't audit me." Commissioners, please vote not to audit me. No, I'll allow them to audit us every year if they want to. But to save money, we'll probably do it every 2 years because it costs a lot of money to audit a government agency. But I'll allow the results to be made public immediately with no
man.
redactions. I will do that. No other sheriff in this area is willing to do that. No other politician in this area is willing to do that. I will let my office be audited anytime anybody wants. You want to see what accounts we got? You want to see how many accounts we have? How much we have in our maintenance fleet? And that's another thing. Our vehicles going to all go through the maintenance fleet. They're not going to be sneak around the maintenance fleet and the county not know how many cars the sheriff's department has. But at the same time, we're going to have grant writers. If we want to get other stuff that we can't afford, we're going to have grant writers. We're going to have people that will help us. And these won't be paid grant writers. These will be volunteer grant writers, people who want the betterment of the sheriff's office. So in their free time, they'll come in and they'll help us write grants. But I am going to use ComStat and keep up with the type of crime the sheriff's department is involved in. Another thing I'm not going to do, if we assist the police departments, we're not going to be taking over their scenes. So when their investigators go to do the investigation, and the deputy got the information, never gave it to the investigators. We're a support staff for the 6 police departments in our county. We're not the county police. We're there for emergencies, immediate emergencies that are life or death threat, and to make sure that that jail's there. Or if the event of a police department decommissioning, we'll take over law enforcement services until they get back. That's why we're there. Just like Georgia State Patrol and the GBI are supportive systems for the sheriff's office. I'm about business, and I mean every word I'm telling you right now. I want to be the sheriff of Clayton County because I know I will do a better job that's being done now. I promise you that. And if you don't believe me, anybody can look at them Tommy G videos of our jail. That is a lot of money that's going to be paid out for that stuff.
So you talked about working with the local, state, and federal agency. I know you just got back in off a flight because I've been trying to sit you down in front of this cameraman because people say, man, you say you know the guy, but
All
you
right.
ain't seen him yet. So but I know you was on a flight. I've been begging you, man, because people really wanna be
Yes, sir.
able to put a face to the voice. They really want to see what you're about as a man. Not only that, but your belief in God. All of that stuff comes together, man, when you're running for an office like what you're running for. And to know all the steps that you have taken, even in our academy class, I just think back to that. Some of the changes that you was putting in place. I mean, I'm talking about there. Like we was in the academy, bro, and we already said we knew you was gonna be a politician. I mean, we knew it.
Well, yeah,
We knew you
I
was gonna
remember
be a
that.
politician, man. Yes,
Well,
we
y'all
knew
used to
you
be
was gonna be a
on me, man. Madison, you gotta give the class. What you say?
Yeah,
You gotta
man.
give the
You
class
listen, man. We
speech
knew
at the
you
end of
was
the.
gonna be a politician, man. So, and even our academy instructors knew it. So it's like I'm proud of you, man. I just gotta say, man, all jokes aside, I'm very proud of you, man. I'm honored to even have you on my podcast. Just to tell the people, because like I said, I'm not in Clayton County, but I work out there. I do some, I worked a couple jobs out there in Clayton County, and those guys, man. It's a lot of things that are going on out there. I know we hear the talks about the jail and stuff like that, but you know, uh, I just gotta turn my hat off to you, man, because you really standing for what you believe in. You're really going for what you want to do, and but it's a tough spot, man, because the people expect results, and I believe they're gonna get results. You know,
I want to be held accountable. I want people to say, "Well, remember when you were campaigning? You said A,
well, they
B,
gonna
and
play this
C.
back, bro. They gonna
Hold me to it." Let me tell you something. Some people are already about to look at this video today, and they're gonna try to take a snippet from that and put parts of the video on there. I hope everybody takes time to watch the whole video. But like I say, I'm always accessible. My phone number is 770-468-7944. I'm available on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Everything is Madison for
yeah,
Sheriff, like that.
yeah,
See it
man.
in the
I
back. I don't
see
know
it
if you
right
see it in the
there.
back. But yeah, Madison for Sheriff. And Twitter, I'm on Lemons 8, Threads, Reddit, all that stuff. WhatsApp. I'm on every social media band that you can think of. But if you really want to follow the day to day progress, I would say follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, and follow me on TikTok because those are great tools. I go to a lot of the HOA meetings here. I'm always at the commissioners meeting, speaking to the commissioners about what we need, what our needs are, and about the corruption that's going on in Clayton County involving my opponent. It's nothing I don't like the guy. I've met him before I even decided to run. He's a very nice person personally, but we have different views on how it should be ran. And I believe that if you bring some life experience with some years of law enforcement experience, I think together you have a better product. And as far as anyone else, I wish those guys the best. Like I said, I'm not gonna have a smear campaign or troll any of them online because I think that's very childish and immature. Sometimes people do that to me, but I stay focused on what the mission is at the end of the day. That's taking care of the taxpayers. That's why I don't go on their social media and troll them, or because clearly I know what they've done in their life from my backgrounds on them that I've received. But I just don't think that's neither here nor there. The people don't care about that.
Yeah,
People care about what are you going to do for them.
man.
What are you going to do for them? And what am I going to do? Because that's who you work for. You work for the taxpayers. You're elected. You're not appointed. Police chiefs are appointed.
Yeah.
Sheriffs are
You
elected.
work for the people.
So yes, sir. So I mean, if there's anything I can do to help you, I will tell you. I want all the veterans to know in Clayton County that I am the 4-year executive board member at the American Legion in Jonesboro. I'm here to help any of the veterans. I hope I get the veteran support. I'm a veteran myself. I served in the United States Marine Corps. I need all the veterans in Clayton County to get behind me. All the teachers, get behind me. I'm here to support the kids. My organization and my veteran organization collaborated to provide school supplies for the kids this year. So we have drop off spots as well. And hopefully, I'll have a great relationship with the chairwoman and the full body of commissioners at some point, as well as I've been reaching out to the mayors and different police chiefs to ensure that we have a understanding that when Cornell Madison becomes sheriff, what the expectations are, and it's to be fully staffed in the appropriate positions. Take care of that jail. Take care of that jail. Take care of that jail, and stop being the laughing stock of
Man,
the state.
man, I you
And
know, I
that's
I, I
about
really
it.
do
You know.
again. Cornell, I really do appreciate, man, you taking time out to come and be on the podcast today, and just to give people, just a first look at what their sheriff is gonna look like, moving forward. when you make it in. I know we talk a lot about, speaking it into existence, but I just want to ask you one more thing, man. I always ask this. How has your faith and belief in God carried you through a lot of these tough times when you have faced adversity? Because, like I said, this is what it's all about. I know some of the challenges you have faced in life, and I know how hard it has been. And even, if you can, just really quick talk about how that faith and belief and never quitting and never giving up has pushed you and propelled you to want to run for the office that you're running for.
Well, a lot of people say, well, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. It's easy to point fingers when you're not the one that's sitting in that seat, when you're not the one that's running for sheriff, because it takes a lot of gall and intestinal fortitude to run for sheriff. With that said, yes, I have a lot of I have a lot of adversity from very powerful people, wealthy people. It takes a lot of money to run for sheriff. So my budget is not as big as other people's budgets or incumbents' budgets or people who have celebrity friends that are donating the money. I get money from the common man, and I'm fine with that. But people get on internet and they make up stories about you, or they tell partial of the story, or they bring up old stuff from the past that's not even irrelevant in 2026. And sometimes that stuff hurts. I will tell you, when that story ran, I mean, even though I had been adjudicated, I didn't get no conviction, it got dismissed. That story ran on the same day my mother died, April 30th of
Yeah.
that year. Remember that? And that was very hurtful to me and my family. And it was done intentionally to divide my family, number one. It was done to throw me off what I had, the momentum that I had going in that county. And, the person that's over there now, I wish him the best. I have nothing to say positive about him. I have nothing to say negative about him. He knows what happened. But without God or faith, I don't know what I would have done. I was destroyed. I was mentally broke down. I had to take a leave of absence from work. I quit being assistant chief of police. There was a lot of stuff that was going on because I didn't want to bring that negative energy to my
Yeah.
coworkers. And that goes back to saying morale. Sometimes you have to reset. But I believe that we have some good churches in here in Clayton County, and a lot of the churches have reached out to me, and the pastors have been speaking to me, and I want to take some of their ideals and put it in my plan for the sheriff's office and the community. But I think without God or the support system that God put around me, especially this time around running for sheriff, is overwhelmingly. I'm like, wow, the support I'm getting right now from the elected officials to the who's who, the influencers, the people online, from friends, people sending me money at madisonforsheriff.com, people reaching out to me from Congress, people reaching out to me from the United States Senate. I went to Washington, had a warm welcome there, and they helped me what I had to go to DC with. It's going to be the betterment for our sheriff's office. It's a lot, but I want the citizens to see I'm out there actually trying to be your sheriff right now. I'm not just putting up posters and saying cliche slogans. I'm trying to be your sheriff right now. I'm very humble. It is what it is. Some days you see me, I'm dressed up. I ain't got $29,000 worth of suits, but some days you see me in regular clothes. But I still work my job every day too as a deputy sheriff, working on the shifts, supervising some young men, and I still make mistakes like everybody else. I made a mistake a couple weeks ago. It had to be addressed.
And I like I said, Madison, I appreciate you, man. I'm not gonna hold you any longer. I could talk to you for hours, man. Yeah, we're gonna catch up, man. But I
Definitely,
really
we'll
do
catch up.
appreciate you taking the time out. So tell the people when they need to go vote. When do they vote?
Well, so we don't
Yeah.
vote until 2028 in the primary. It's May 24th. But when you're running for sheriff, you need to
Yeah.
make sure that you have the exposure that's out there. So, and you have to raise a lot of money, and you have to build a team. And there's ups and downs on this roller coaster. It's very tiring on you mentally. And I'm in my second year of running or campaigning. So I'm here in the event of a sheriff gets removed. I'm ready to take office, like the previous one did, unfortunately. And I'm here to go the long run, to the long distance. Because one thing none of the other candidates will ever do is outpace me out campaign me. I got sheriffs across the state calling me when I ran the last time. They said, "Man, you went up against an incumbent with a major celebrity behind him, and you still gave him hell." I'm not here to give you hell. I'm here to stand up for the people of the county that I live in. And let me go back to that real quick. People say, "Oh, you lived in another county. Are you jumping county to county to try to become a sheriff?" First of all, no. But the law states you have to run in the county that you live in, and you have to live in that county for a certain period of time before you run. Number one. Number two, I've only lived in two counties, so it's not county to county. It's not like some people who jump in job to job to job to job and throwing stones saying I would jump from county to county. Number three, I feel that this county is a better fit for me for what I'm trying to do. You know, our culture is more the same in this county than how I grew up. So I feel that I'll be more effective here. And so, I started my Georgia law enforcement career in this county, and that's where I'm going to finish it at, in this county. So, if any of the people want to know any questions that they have, once you put this up on the internet,
Well, they coming.
let them ask the questions. Oh, they coming. But I hope they watch the entire video before they make remarks, But there are some smart people in Clayton County, and there's some good people in Clayton County. And I feel that they just want change. And guess what I'm bringing that hasn't been here in the last 20 years. Guess what I'm bringing?
Yeah.
A new name to Clayton County. Our great sheriff, Victor Hill, was here for a long time. And then we went to the Allens. We have an Allen commissioner that he's married to. Is what it is. But Madison's about to take over and clean up the mess. And I'm going to do that with the help of some very knowledgeable people. Some people who've already been county sheriffs. Some of these people have been long-time police chiefs. Some of these people are long-time members of Congress. I have some great, knowledgeable people behind me that are guiding me and ensuring that the things that I'm doing are for the betterment of the people. It should not be about one person. And I don't want the employees of the current administration to feel that I'm going to come there and start firing them or taking them off their task force. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Only they can do that to themselves. It is what it is. But I will tell the appropriate people be in the correct places. And we will be a proactive agency. And as long as my jail is squared away, the better my jail is squared away, the easier it is for me to allow my men and women to go work with other agencies and to help other departments. But until that jail squared away, the people of Clayton County want that jail fixed. The people of Clayton County want a better reputation of their jail. And that's
So
what
again,
I'm
I thank you, Madison, man, for coming on here and really answering some of these tough questions, man, because some of them are tough, man. I know you can't get into all the good details, man, that people.
I can't tell you all my secrets
Yeah,
because guess what? If I told you all my secrets, guess what they're gonna do? Them jokers across the street gonna use them. They're like, he's a shining sheriff. I'm like, man, my mom and that joker got my idea. He's probably still gonna take some of the ones I gave tonight, but it's a little too late for damage control. And people know I'm gonna be their next sheriff, and I plan to serve them with pride, and while still being humble. But I'm gonna be a proud sheriff. I'm proud of this county. It's so funny when I was in D.C. this last week. I took some time out for some leisure and went on a Capitol tour. And so you're walking around on the Capitol tour, have my Clayton County pin on. The lady says, "We know that one person here's from Georgia." And they were asking about all the statues for all the different presidents and people. And they said, "Mr. Master, I have my pin on. It says a candidate for sheriff for Georgia. I have my pin on. I'm proud of Clayton County. I'm proud of Georgia." And I think that we're going to do some things differently. And as long as we have good relationships with the public and with the people, we'll be okay. We're going to be okay. We're just in a dark moment right now, and this too shall pass.
Again, man, we have the one and only CJ Cornell Madison running for sheriff of Clayton County. Again, I'm so proud of this brother right here for all that he stands for, his faith, his perseverance, overcoming some things. I know we didn't get. Maybe we'll come back and talk about that at a different time, but.
We'll talk again. We
we
can do this a
will.
couple more times before it's time. But I just wanted to clear the air. I really wanted to come in here and clear the air on some
But
stuff.
you, man, you are doing your thing, man. Clayton County can't have ask for a better sheriff to be, man. So, again, I tell you guys, man, get out there and vote. Make sure y'all following him on all his. I will add all his links into this video so that way y'all can follow him. But make sure y'all go out and follow what he's doing. He's always out. He's always out and about trying to do things for Clayton County. I know this personally, so y'all get out and just join him. It's gonna be some things that he's gonna be at, some events that he's gonna be at. He's gonna be doing where he's gonna be out there with the people. Get out there and meet your next sheriff. Get out there and do that. Cornell Madison for sheriff of Clayton County. And as I always say, people, as I always say, no matter how tough life gets, and no matter what you're going through, remember with God, you're never out of the fight.